Hey everyone, I'm Kelsey and I'm going to be doing the Disney World College program this fall, and so I thought that I would do a little vlog. Obviously haven't left yet. As you can see, I'm still at home in Georgia, and I just want to introduce myself, say a little bit about why I ended up doing the Disney College program, because I think my story is probably a little different than most people's stories. And then for those of you that are watching who might be thinking about applying in the spring 2013 or fall 2013, I'll talk about my interview and application process and give little tips along the way. And I'm not very good at editing, so those tips will probably just be thrown out there randomly, and I might be talking about something totally different and then think of like, oh, this was a good tip that I learned, and throw that out there. So I'm sorry, it's not going to be very organized. So I'm Kelsey. I just turned 24 years old this summer. I'm in Gamma Sigma Sigma sorority. Whoop! And I just graduated from the University of Georgia. I live in Georgia. I don't have a southern accent, which I'm sure you've noticed by now, because I was born and raised pretty much in California. I have family all over the South, and so like I've been coming here for a long time, but haven't actually lived here full time since 2007, which really isn't that long. So I say y'all and stuff like that, but I still have the California accent, or so I've been told. So that's a little bit about me. So I guess I should probably explain how I ended up doing the Disney College program. Well, I did my undergraduate degree at the University of California, San Diego, because like I said, I'm originally from California, and graduated from there in 2010, and originally wanted to apply to do the Disney College program in fall of 2010. However, I waited until my school had a presentation, which wasn't until March. And by then I had already gotten my graduate school acceptance letters, and one of them, the University of Georgia, the program that I was applying for was really competitive, and they told me like, no, because it's so competitive, we can't hold your spot, and we can't even guarantee that if you apply afterwards that you'll get in. And like, they only accepted new people in the fall, and so if I had done a fall DCP, I couldn't have started in spring. I would have had to wait all the way until the next fall, and that just wouldn't have been good. So I decided to go to grad school, and I didn't think that I would be able to do a college program. And it actually wasn't until recently, I guess about January of this year, when I was talking to one of my grad school professors, and I told her that I really wanted to do public relations for Disney. Like that had been like my dream job since, like, I don't even know, like I have friends that I went to kindergarten with who told me that at kindergarten career day that I said that I wanted to take Michael Eisner's job, which I don't even know how 5-year-old me like knew who Michael Eisner was or how they remember that, and I don't. But anyway, the point is I wanted to work for Disney corporate for a long time. And so I was telling the professor this, and she was like, oh, well, like, why don't you do the Disney College program? And at first, like a lot of people probably, I was like, oh, I don't think I can do that. I think that's only for undergraduates, and like I don't think I'm allowed to do that anymore. And the professor's answer was that several of her graduate students had actually done the program, and that the only requirements are that you be at least 18, so you can definitely be older. I've seen on the Facebook group for this fall that there's actually a lot of people that are quite a bit older. There's actually like quite a few, well, not quite a few, but a significant amount of people that are even older than me that are doing the program. And so you just have to be at least 18, and the only other requirement is that you're currently enrolled in class. And she was like, you're taking grad school classes. And so that was new to me, and so I thought like, oh, well, like it must be meant that I apply for this then, like since I almost had applied for it before and didn't think I could, and now someone else is telling me like years later that I should. So I decided that I was going to apply for fall of 2012. Applications actually went out January 23rd, I think, somewhere around that point, is usually when the the fall applications go out. I'm sure it's different times every year, but it's around that point. And so I applied, I guess people would say kind of late, mid-February, which I guess brings me to point number 1. Do not wait for the presentation at your school if it's later. Some of them, like the presentation at UGA, wasn't going to be until April 10th. And like the last day to submit applications, I think, was April 15th. I know it was really close to when UGA's presentation was. And I've heard, I don't know if this is true, from other vlogs, that the longer you wait, that's for some of the positions, Disney takes people in a first come, first serve kind of manner. Not the specialized ones, I don't think, like lifeguarding or concierge or something where they would want someone with the most experience. But for the more basic roles. And so, like, if you apply later, there's a better chance that they won't have any more openings. Like I said, this hasn't been officially confirmed by anyone at Disney, so I don't know, but I would recommend applying earlier just in case that is true. So if your school presentation is, I would say, if it's any later than like maybe mid-March or something, don't wait for your school presentation. Just go online and apply. You don't have to wait for your school presentation to apply. You can go online. That's what I did. I just went online one day and was like, hey, I'm going to do the application. So the first part of the application is just the basic kind of stuff that you would do for any job application. And then after that, you have to take this little test, which a lot of companies do this too, where they ask you questions like, I am a happy person, and then you have to pick like, this is like me a lot, like strongly agree, or like this is not like me at all, or something in between. And it's just a lot of questions like that. And another tip that I'll put out there, I know some people who had trouble with that test that took it on a Mac, so I would recommend for the application and for that little test to take it on a PC if you can. I'd seen on the Diz boards, the Disney forums, that some people even, like, it said that they failed it when they actually hadn't because they'd taken it on a Mac. Once again, I'm not really sure if that's true. That's just what I saw on a discussion board. But if you can, don't risk it. Try taking it on a PC. And so once you pass that test, you get a little email, and it tells you that you've been identified as a strong candidate, and they want to schedule an interview with you. And so you log in, and it gives you potential times for the interview. Another tip, try to schedule your interview for a time when you're not like super rushed, like if you have time before and after, because they might call you early, they might call you late, it might run late, something like that. And so you don't want to, like, one of my sorority sisters scheduled hers between classes and just said it was really hectic because like they called her a little bit late and then it ran a little bit longer than she was expecting. And so I would just say, don't even like try to stress yourself out like that. Just try to pick a time when you don't have a lot going on. So then you schedule your time for the interview, and then they call you around the time that you scheduled. I think mine, they called me a little bit late. I've heard some people say they call a little bit early, but so be ready about that time. And my interviewer was actually really nice. I don't remember her name. She was new too, and so I think she was actually just as nervous about interviewing me as I was about the interview, so that worked out really well. And basically, they're just going to ask you about your top roles, which brings me to another tip. Try to put down as many roles as possible. Obviously, if there's something that you would totally hate doing, like if you would totally hate being in food service, don't put that down because you don't want to get picked for that and then be miserable for your whole program. But if it's something that you're not sure about or something that you've never tried, go ahead and put it down because you don't know, and it looks a lot better and it's a lot easier to place you if you're willing to do more jobs. So basically when they call in the interview, they're just going to go over the roles that you picked, and if you didn't put that many, they're going to ask you if you want to put down more roles. And then they talk about your top choices with you, and they ask you questions about those. I didn't put down character performer for mine because I knew that that wasn't something that I wanted to do. But I believe if you do put that down, that part of the interview process will be about scheduling you to go to an audition, a character audition. So there's that. And then they're going to ask you to pick, depending on your interviewer, I've heard people who had to pick their top 3. I had to pick my top 2 roles. And then they'll ask you questions specifically related to those roles. Some of the questions you can find, like I remember when I was preparing for mine, I Googled Disney College Program internship questions, and you can find some pretty long lists of questions that people have put. I don't really remember what my questions were. My top 2 were merchandising and attractions, and I don't remember what I was asked. And so they ask you a little bit about that, and then they go over the typical job stuff, are you willing to perform these roles with reasonable accommodation and stuff like that. And that's pretty much it. And then they tell you that you'll hear around 2 weeks, sometimes sooner. I found out literally 48 hours after my interview. I had my interview on a Monday at 10 a.m. and Wednesday at 9:59 I got my email that said that I'd been accepted for my first choice. But it varies. I've heard some people who got pended, which that's another thing to bring up. If you get pended during your application process, don't worry. It just means that either they don't know where to place you, or they're looking at putting you in a role that's more specialized. There's a lot of things that it could mean. I know some people who, I personally didn't get pended because it was only 48 hours, but I know some people who were pended for a pretty long time, about 5 or 6 weeks, and basically had just figured that they were going to be denied and then ended up getting accepted. So you really don't know. Pending isn't a bad thing. It's just kind of neutral. I've heard of people who got pended and then accepted, and people who got pended and then denied. So don't worry if you're pended. It happens to most people, I've heard, or I don't know. It just seemed like a lot of people on the Facebook group had been pended. So just don't worry about that. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about the interview and the application process. I know that it's really difficult to say this, but just try not to be so stressed. I remember I was so nervous before my phone interview. It wasn't even the first phone interview that I'd had, but for some reason, just because Disney was my dream company, I was freaking out. Don't freak out. Don't worry. The interviewers are nice. I have never heard of anyone who had a mean interviewer, and I've talked to a lot of people about their interviews, so don't worry. They're going to try and make you feel comfortable, and just be honest. If it's your dream to work at Disney, tell them that. If you've wanted to work at Disney or in Disney corporate forever, tell them that. Just be yourself. And I know it sounds really cheesy, but a lot of people told me before my interview, try to smile when you're talking to them, because it'll make your voice come across as more upbeat. So, I personally, I don't know if that helped, but that might make you feel more comfortable, so you could try that. And yeah, just enjoy it, because it's the beginning of this wonderful experience. And so I probably won't do another vlog for a while, because I won't have anything actually new to say until I move in. I move in 26, almost 25 days. Yay! So it's almost time. And once I move in, and I actually am getting situated in the program and learning how things work, then I'll be vlogging a bit more, and hopefully by then I'll have enough editing experience to have a cool intro. So good night, everybody.